everybody. Welcome to our program night for the Channel City Camera Club. We have a great program arranged for you, and I'm going to turn it over to our Director of Programs, Deb Gibson, to introduce our presenter for tonight. Deb?
Thank you. Felice came to me, and I see that David is on the program tonight. So Felice was recommended to me by our member, David Austin. And as soon as I looked at her website, I thought, yes, we need to have this. So I hope you all had a chance to read her biography and maybe even have been on her website to look at some of her images. But there's a couple things out of her biography that I really liked, and I want to read something. It says, Felice sees her camera as providing a sense of time expansion and stillness. She said, I could capture a moment, something sacred or commonplace, an unconscious gesture, a tattered clothesline, a red plastic picture, or a worn prayer book. I like to leave the familiar, travel to faraway places, and find the gift of really being present. And so I love that. And then she's obviously won a number of awards. It's been exhibited in juried exhibitions. She published The Quiet Between Song of Burma. And anyway, I'm thrilled, Felice, to have you tonight to do your lifescapes and naturescapes for the Camera Club.
Thank you, Deb. And I'm so happy to see all these names. I hope to see some faces with behind the names, but thank you for joining me. Actually, it's a little bit like indulging me because I love what I do, and it's all about capturing special moments for me. And even though I'm not a street photographer like Henry Cartier, I feel like I know what he means by the decisive moment. It is an illusion that photos are made with the camera. They are made with the eye, the heart, and the head. Your eye must see a composition or an expression that life itself offers you. And you must know with intuition when to click the camera. Thinking should be done before and after, not during photography. And of course, it's all luck. This really speaks to me, this quote, and that's how I would express what I'm doing out there. So, like I said, I'm not a street photographer. I'm too old, and I'm not fast enough, and I'm not good at hiding my camera. But in spite of that, I like people included within a landscape, and I call those lifescapes. And neither the people nor the landscape really dominates over the other. And that decisive moment for me is when I feel there's a kind of communion between the people and the place, or their work, or that moment in time. It could be an unconscious gesture or an unguarded moment. At these times, there's not only a connection between me and the subject, but also between me and my camera. And the shutter seems to click on its own. And I'm not just saying that, I actually have felt that the camera went off on its own. So let's look at a few to start. These are called lifescapes. This one, these girls were hula dancers in a Molokai. And you know, you can only shoot so many dance movements, right? And I wasn't really happy with the hula dancing, but when they finished, they walked out into the shallow water, and you could see it was sunset, and they were looking down at something in the water. And there it was like a stage show. And that's one of those moments where the camera just clicked, and there it is. And that's one of my favorite photos. The next one is called the water bearer. It was obviously early in the morning. The mist was there. This is Burma. And in the background, it's called Pandaya, and there are thousands of golden Buddhas on this property within those walls of those temples. And that was the background. And in the foreground, you see these two water buffalo. And just as they put their little tongues out to kiss each other, and the water was flowing from the water barrel, I swear the cameras just clicked. So that's another, what I call lifescape. This is called Scarves, and I was in Morocco. I was in Essaouira, Morocco, and here the ladies are mostly choosing to wear headscarves, but you know that it was mandatory for a while, but then when it was not mandatory, they wore them anyway. It was kind of a custom. And here they were looking out at the horizon, and when I saw them, I just felt that they were looking out, wondering what life was like out there. That's how I felt. And it was one of those moments where not just the people, but the place went together, another lifescape. Now these are women at work. They're literally working, they're cleaning up a park. And look what they're wearing. So these are working women, and look at those outfits, those beautiful saris. And there again is what I call a lifescape. Now here are koi fish. I was standing on a bridge in Shanghai in a Chinese garden, and these koi fish were swimming into the shade. And when they were in the shade, the camera clicked. Now look at that. You can see that there are some fish in the sun on the left, and you can see the ripples of the water. But that's the shot right there when they moved into the shade. Okay, and this one, which is my most seen, most enjoyed shot. We were in Burma, and the boys they had 20 minutes to play out of the monastery, and we had given the abbot a donation so that we could shoot them, photograph them when they were playing. And there was this facade. There's this old ruined temple was on the property, so they just knew exactly what to do. They were climbing up and down, and I didn't get the greatest shot because my friend who was there got a shot of a boy leaping across from one side to the other, and she got him in midair. But this is still a well-loved shot, and I get asked all the time if it was one boy that I reproduced. I don't have a clue how to do that. I do not know how to do that. So it's all natural, and that's what I do. I shoot what I see and when I feel the right moment is. Now this picture here took first place in last year's International Color Awards in the Children of the World category. So we'll stick on this a little bit. I'm going to give you a little background about this time. I started taking photographs seriously in my late 40s, and I've had no formal training. And through the years, I've learned a little bit about the camera, but my head spins when it comes to technology. So I focus more on how to train my eye. I learned the elements of design: color, light, texture, form, negative space, and also things like leading lines, juxtaposition, and tension. And I recently found some old journals of mine from the 70s, and I see that I was obsessed with everything visual: scenery, art, dreams, night dreaming, daydreaming. I was called to attention in school on more than one occasion because I was daydreaming. And I kept journals most of my life, and I went to countless workshops stimulating my imagination. Much of it was simply escaping out of history class or home chores. I called myself an escape artist. Later, building a business and raising a family took first and second place to being an artist. I was also obsessed with planning and organizing. And in 1980, My husband and I built the Day Runner time management system, which ended up organizing millions of lives and the business around our lives as well. Some of you can still remember the sound of the Velcro opening and closing in elevators and offices and classrooms. The Day Runner line of products wound up in several countries and languages. Even Air Force One had their own edition. And I'm sorry to say today, but there was even a special edition for the Russians in a business exchange program we were engaged in. But while building this company that went public in 1994, I was also rocking babies in the cradle above my desk. Now, we took time out to travel from time to time, but it was no ordinary travel. One of the adventures was to the Kumbh Mela in India. So Bill, put that, if you don't mind, put that India, those 4 shots of India, right? There we go. Okay. So for those of you who don't know, it's the largest gathering of humanity on Earth. The year we went in 1989, there were only 15 million people taking their ceremonial dip in the Ganges. You can see in the bottom right picture, the hordes of people behind. That's my husband in the foreground, my husband. And like I said, there were 15 million people there. This event takes place every 12 years. And in 2013, the year our daughters went, there were 120 million people there over the 6-week event. In 1981, I only had a point and shoot with me, and the shutter jammed at the most auspicious time. I was on a canoe, as you can see here, with women and children waiting their turn to dip into the water. Unforgettable experiences in India and a few photos from the trip ended up on my office wall at Day Runner. The art director came in my office and eyed the photos and said I should pursue photography. And so I did. My first coach was Claire Steinberg, and she's what's called a social landscape fine art photographer who began her career in 1966 after graduating UCLA in the art department, studying under David Hockney and Robert Heineken. She became the picture editor of Popular Photography magazine, and she taught us the elements of design that apply to most forms of art. And her love of what she calls the social landscape stuck with me. We mostly shot in and around Los Angeles, the farmers market, downtown, parks, wherever people gathered. One of the design elements Claire liked to speak about was juxtaposition. So when you see it, shoot it. This one that you're going to see right now, called Pink Cadillac. There. This image just took second place in this year's International Color Awards in the Americana category. So when you see juxtaposition, shoot it. Eventually, I heard about photo expeditions all over the world, and I began to travel with some very fine photographers who would partner with an in-country guide who knew the best locations and the best times to be there. So coming up now is a mix of those expeditions with a few photos from personal trips included. I call this one AV. So there we were at the Cliffs of Moher, an iconic photo shoot in Ireland, but boring. There was a line of locals going up the stairs to my left, and there was this young girl with this flaming red hair. And I said, would you mind standing right there at the railing? And when I say 3, spin your head around, and so she did. This one is called Killarney Lake. It's in Ireland. And it was actually the lake outside the hotel. And I guess it's more of a landscape than a lifescape, but the little 2 ducks make it more of a lifescape. Next one is called La Boca Tango. It's in Argentina, where in a little town called La Boca, where tango was born. This is definitely a lifescape. Next one is called not that one. It's Gemma Elfana. Bill, that one, they're right there. So this is a lifescape too. I was standing on a patio of a restaurant that's no longer there. I think it was bombed. But this was real. These carts and these monkey grinders, there's a monkey grinder in there. All this was happening and converging right in front of my camera. So of course the camera clicked right there. This is called Hanoi Prayers. And in Hanoi, there's this beautiful lake with a temple in the distance. And as you walk around, you'll see people doing martial arts and saying their prayers and all sorts of other practices. And she was reading her prayer sheet right there. And this is in Cambodia. I was also on a bridge, and the 3 kids and the 3 boats. And that's the actual water with that color. And they live on the water. It's called Floating Village. The next one is called Pali Tipitaka, and it's in Burma, and that's the Buddhist Bible in that country. This was the cover of my book called The Song of Burma, The Quiet Between. And it was the quiet between 2 huge events, the monks' revolution and a terrible disaster that happened in Burma in the same year. So, but here, this is called Golden Weir. And these are these special, you only see this in Burma, where they paddle the boat with their foot and stand on the very tip of it. This photograph I submitted to a contest. It was with Small Luxury Hotels of the World. And I was one of 6 winners. And you could choose wherever you wanted to go in the world. Well, I shouldn't say wherever. You had your choice of 6 countries, and I chose Costa Rica. And so I got to go there with my partner at the time. Okay, the next one is called Goat Herder. And this was also in Burma. And like I said, the man that we went with, the photographer, had this in-country guide. His name was Daniel. And he was known as 1/3 in-country guide, 1/3 monk, and 1/3 Cecil B. DeMille. And he would say, okay, photographers, line up, get ready. Something's gonna come in front of you. And there it was. The goat herder came with the goats. And the next one is called Nirvana. You can see, this was in a temple in Bagan. Who knew? I mean, it just looks like old ruins when you go to Bagan. You don't know what's inside, but there's golden temples and all sorts of things. And here was this little novice praying in this one temple. The Buddha is on his side, as you could see. And when they're lying on their side like that, they're in a state of nirvana. That means they're transitioning. So when cameras became digital, I sought out another photo coach, and I found David Skurnick, who travels exclusively in his truck on gray roads. Gray roads are back roads on the AAA maps marked by gray lines, and he never takes the same road twice, except when he takes us on photo trips and he reveals his special locations. David is still coaching me because, like I said, I can take a pretty picture, but don't ask me how I shot it. Here's his testimonial about me. Okay, Bill, you can put up his quote. After a long fight with her camera, Felice has finally won the war. Photography is an art that insists on technical proficiency. Felice is pure artist. She had to work hard to create an alliance with her equipment. The happy marriage has and will continue to spawn beautiful creations. But David doesn't want to see a human being in his photographs. Wildlife, yes, but no people. He says, I narrowed my work to landscapes because nature didn't ask so many questions. And he never traveled outside the United States. So for the next few years, I mostly shot landscape when we went out on shoots with David. So here are, next coming up are some landscapes, which I call naturescapes. There's a dreamlike quality to many of these, reminiscent of my early childhood dreams. This is in Death Valley. The next three are all from Death Valley. They're all different versions of the dunes. Oh, there's one in between this one, Bill. There's one called O'Keefe Dunes, this one. This is very dreamlike to me, very abstract, but very soft. I call it O'Keefe Dunes. It reminds me of an O'Keefe painting. Next one is very abstract. You could see though, you could actually see that it's a dune with the wind-swept markings on part of it. The next couple, I have an obsession with grass. So this is just up the 395. We were looking for flowers which had disappeared in the wind. Bodie Ghost Town was closed. I think there was an earthquake. We couldn't, so I ended up shooting grass, but I fell in love with it. This was up on that road. The next one I call Van Gogh grass, because I actually sold this during the recent Van Gogh exhibition that we had at La Cumbra. And then there's one I just shot recently that I haven't printed yet. Next one, more of a, obviously a vertical, but different colors and shapes of grass. So the next one is, you might recognize this location. Anybody know? I guess you're all on mute, so okay. So even if you know, you can't say, but it's the Felice. And this is a sunset shot. The next one is the Felice also, and it's a sunrise shot.
Wow.
And those lines that you see in the foreground, those are at that very special moment, you know, when the sun is just coming up. You'll get those little lines there. Okay, can everybody hear me? Because once somebody said they can't hear me, they lost me. But everybody else can, right?
I can hear you. Yeah.
Oh, okay, great.
Yes.
All right. This is also up to 395. It's a road called Gros Ventre Road. And when it's funny because at the beginning of the trip, there was no snow and you would just go straight past it. You would never even look at it. But with that light white background, it became very stark and interesting. The next one is probably the most abstract shot I've ever taken. It's the Grand Prismatic in Yellowstone, but it was a really interesting angle. I don't even know how I did it. I know I squinted my eyes. I know I held the camera in a weird place, and it became very, you know, it's interesting. It's not your typical Grand Prismatic shot. The ones you see, you know, with the great pools. I mean, they're wonderful, wonderful, but this one's a little bit more dreamlike. Okay. And this is called the Secret Swamp because it's one of David's locations. It's in Yellowstone, but it's this crazy place where these trees of all, you know, they're burnt out trees, and there's this little stream running through and the grass that I love. And it's just interesting to me. It's very, very graphic. And the next one is a more typical landscape, I guess you could say. That's probably more typical, kind of iconic but beautiful in Colorado, where you have both the snow and the beautiful aspens. Okay. Here you can, okay. So this one, I had a camera, it was one of the Nikon models a few years ago that allowed you to do 7 shots in the camera, and it would blend them in the camera, and then only one would pop up on the back of your screen. And so I was having so much fun with that. I was in a dahlia field in Portland called the Swan something dahlia farm. And we shot for 5 days. So after a few days, I had to try to do something a little different than single shots. And I tried this multiple shot function, and I really liked the way it turned out. This is more also dreamlike to me. I shot this out of a window in China. And actually, I'm going to let you know, and I don't do this too often, but I used a filter. It's in Camera Raw. It's the filter tool in Camera Raw. And it brought out color that wasn't there. There was just a hint of color. And it brought this out. So this almost looks like a phone shot to me. But I really like it. It's called Dogwood and Fog. And the okay. Oh, there's one more, Bill. It's number 33. This one is also more typical, I think. However, for me, I could see the elements of design in here. You know, I could see shape and the way, you know, it's just the way it's placed. It has a painterly feel to it as well. So now, so we can stay on this slide for a moment, because I'm going to tell you a little bit about something else I studied called contemplative photography. On one of my grand escapes, I joined George DeWolf and Lydia Getz in 2013 to Huangshan Mountains for a course in contemplative photography. Before we climbed up the mountains to shoot, we visited the Shanghai Museum to see the ancient scroll brush paintings. Many of them were painted in these mountains. You'll see the shots coming up. Also known as the Yellow Mountains. The principles considered in those paintings were applied to our photographs, including the dimensions that were vertical like scrolls. You could go to the next one, Bill. We could start talking about that. So here, that's why this looks so narrow and tall. We were working with we were looking at the Chinese scroll paintings, and so the photographs took some of that on, but there were other similarities, and had to do with building layers. There was always a foreground, a middle ground, a background. We were searching for the fog that came in if you were lucky. We didn't have too much of it, but you could go to the next slide, Bill. This one is called Stairway to Heaven. Oh, go back for a second, Bill. I don't know if anybody could see it, but let's see. On the upper left, I don't know if you could see it. There's literally a stone stairway built into the mountain. It's right above that tree. You can't really see it. I don't know if you can enlarge it or not, Bill. Can you or no?
Let's see. Oh, no, I'm just moving through
You're just
pictures.
going forward. Okay, so you can't. All right. Anyway, the next couple are also long and vertical. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, it's right up through here.
Now, I didn't climb that one. In fact, I climbed very little. I went on this trip without reading the fine print. And literally, I couldn't do a lot of it. And I had to be rescued by a lift, a chair lift, to go from one side of from the western to the eastern, or from the eastern to the western side of these mountains. And I wasn't the only one. There was one of the photographers literally went up and down on his butt. But it was, I could never have done it now, but I tried to do it then. That was in 2013. So you go to the next one. The next couple of shots are also the idea of contemplative photography, where you have a foreground, and it doesn't look like there's a middle ground here, but I guess you could say the tree is foreground and then the mountain is middle ground and the background is background. And here's another one of those. Very seldom do I convert to black and white. And there's another. Here too, you have the different layers. Okay, and then this one, it was really difficult for me to edit this. I was not a good photographer back in this day. And I had to do a lot of post-production just to bring out different parts of it. But what I loved about this shot was that what looks like an imprint on the bottom right was literally carved into the mountain. And that's what caught my eye. It looked like a painting where the artist would inscribe it, you know, or stamp it with Chinese words. And so I call it inscription. Okay. All right, now at this point, if anybody has any questions or comments, it might be a good time to take a little break before we get into the next few.
So Felice, I was going to say your photograph of the koi, the shading or whatever, I saw a complete face in there.
A lot of people do see face, the face in there.
Yeah.
I did not see the face.
Really? Okay, I saw it. It was like a very pointy face. It was
Yeah,
very
it's there.
distinct.
Yeah, a lot of people see
Yeah.
it, and I only
Yeah.
saw it when somebody pointed it out because
Oh,
I was
okay.
watching the fish move.
Right. No, this is what I'm saying. Afterwards, you notice that, but I noticed it when I was looking at the photograph.
Who's speaking, by the way?
Linda.
Hi, Linda.
Yeah.
Okay,
don't know.
yeah. No,
Yeah.
a lot of people see that, for sure, and I see it now. But you know, okay.
I have a question about the boys on the temple.
Yeah.
In the red was, did you do any part of selective decolorization on that? It seemed like some
Yes.
of it was black and white and
That's right, Bill. That's the only shot in my whole portfolio where the greenery that was kind of yellowish green was turned into black and white. Now, I didn't do it, Bill, because I don't know how to do it. But somebody did that for me, and I really liked the effect, so I kept it.
no, it's really effective. It's very
Thank
nice.
you. Thank you. I think so too. But I have a lot to learn with that kind of thing. All right.
Any other
So,
questions? Just
anything
up.
else? Anybody have anything? Because I'm going to move into alternative photography, which I've dipped into a little bit. But
Felice, this is Deb. I
Deb.
am curious, how much post-production do you do? And do you use Photoshop, Lightroom, or?
yeah, I don't use Lightroom. I've taken 3 or 4 courses in Lightroom, but haven't been able to use it because yeah, it's just, you know, it's like changing cameras or something.
Right.
It's like you get used to a certain way. And so I use Photoshop, but I continue to take lessons in Photoshop because I don't use that much of it. I don't use layers. And it's a little bit embarrassing to say that, but I don't. So when I make changes, it's on the whole picture. So
Okay.
I'm very careful to shoot only when the lighting's right or only when the moment is right. I'm just really careful. I'll go on a shoot and maybe not shoot if I don't see something, you know?
I appreciate that so much because I'm not big on post-production, but anyway.
But you know what? It's hugely important to me. It's not like I don't use it. I've never shot anything but raw. So in that way, I'm sort of like a pro because I've never shot a JPEG except on my phone. And I've learned to do it the right way. And I always put a photo through Photoshop, you know, but it's the basics.
Right.
And by the way, I don't know how many of you know about artificial intelligence denoise and AI clarity. They're made by Topaz. They've changed my life. It's like buying a brand new camera. What those two tools do, I recommend them very, very highly. They go right into your filter on Photoshop. I do use Nix, you know, and Topaz and Altentech. There's a few, you know, plugins that I use because they're quick. And, you know, a lot of pros use actions, right? Where there are groups of tools or fixes in one action. A lot of what these plugins do, they do that for you. And so you can try them on, see if you like it, and you can adjust them and so forth. So I do use filters in my Photoshop. I use filters.
Okay.
And I use yeah.
Felice, I wanted to share that one of the members in the chat wrote just a note in chat. Chuck says that he really liked the first photo with the 3 women at the water, since the perspective made the ocean appear to be elevated at the back of the image, as if the sea was rising rather than sea level, which of course it is.
I'm trying to think of what shot that was. Oh yes, you know, that was I love that shot too. It looked like a stage set to me. It was so flat. That's true. I'm sure it was handheld. I'm sure I was just standing there in front of them. Don't give me too much credit for this fancy elevated at the back of the yeah, that actually, it wasn't that the sea was rising, it's just that the sunset was the same color as the water. You know, the sunset reflected on the water, it gave it that kind of homogeneous feel. Maybe that's it.
Maybe when we get to the end, if there are other questions, we can go back and look at any of the particular ones that were mentioned or people have questions with.
Yeah. What else? Did I take a Photoshop class at Wake Center? No. No. Okay. Anything else? Okay.
All right.
All
Shall
right.
we kick back in then?
Yeah. I don't know if you all agree, but you know, do you think that what you're looking at here is more artistic than it is photogenic? I mean, photography, I don't know, but I'm leaning more towards art, you know, and so there's a wonderful teacher. You probably know who Joyce Wilson is. She taught at Brooks. She actually created the alternative photography department at Brooks. And she did that for 5 years. And I was fortunate enough to work with her in her home, in her studio, in her garage, where she has etching equipment and printers that can get messed up with ink and paint, and it's more alternative. So the next few shots, you'll see some of the works I did with Joyce, and I'd like to do more of this kind of thing. It's more artistic. So this is 3 shots of a sunflower, which is photography, of course, but etched onto a plate and then printed on a very soft paper that, you know, that it's indented. Well, you've probably seen etching. So this is called an etching, and you can use whatever color ink you want. So I used kind of a brownish black. I combined brown ink with black ink on this. So this is an example of an etching using photography, of course. This is another one of Joyce's wonderful techniques. You use a silhouette. We'll go back to it. You use a black and white, you use a silhouette photo, and you're painting the paper with red ink or red paint when it dries, and then you're gold leafing over that, and then you're printing with your silhouette. And you get this. This is the Ubain Bridge in Burma. And you can see there's monks and bicycles and so cool. Okay, so that's one of Joyce's techniques. This is a composite. It's a found objects composite. And I found this shell on the beach. It's just that one of those wings, one side of that wing was just a little shell buried in the sand. And I really thought, oh, it looks like a wing. And so I shot it in reverse, and then I enlarged it, and then I put it up in the sky of another shot where there's a heron in the bottom, and I call it Heron's Dream. Okay. And this is a composite too. It was done with the iPhone, and it was in Joyce's house. It was one of her statues, different angles, and then done in the camera in the composite mode. And then the next one is another thing that we did at Joyce's. We worked with models, which is not something I'm used to working with. And this wonderful model had her body covered with tattoos, and I had her stand next to a painting. And this is encaustic. So after it was printed, we coated it with wax, so it has that dreamlike quality that I love. So these are all different types of post-production techniques, more printing techniques that you would do with your photography. And then there's, we'll wait just a second, then there's the iPhone. So sometimes that's all you have, right? So remember that lightning storm we had a few months ago? I was walking on the beach and I had my iPhone. So there it is. The strike, this one and the next one. Now, I know there's a raw mode in my phone, but I didn't use it at the time. And I'm really anxious to see what it would, how crisp you could get, or how much better you could get in raw mode on your phone. If anybody has that or used it, I'd sure like to hear about it. But I did get these printed. My printer printed these into 20 by 20 on the long side, and they look really good. But if you look at that mountain there, there's no detail. So that was because it was, not shot in RAW, maybe, I'm not sure. And then the next two are a recent trip I took with David. And like I said, he doesn't want people, but he likes wildlife. So here's my wildlife shot. I have two. These are called avosets. And this was over Owens Lake. So there's two shots of them. This one and the next one. Here they are. This is their backs. And you could see in the distance, there was a little town on the other side. And then I have two more from the same trip. Wildlife. And one more. And these, David calls these horgy shots, horse orgy. So there you have it. I'm all done with my presentation, and I hope you liked it. All finished.
I have questions if nobody else is going to jump in. I took one of the workshops with you at Joyce's a while
Chris.
back.
Yeah, awesome.
And that the sunflowers, is that the photogravure? You called it etching, but I was wondering if it was a different process. It's with her press, right?
Yes, it's with her press. Yes.
It's fantastic.
Is that another word for the etching photogravure?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, I like all your alternative
Yeah, I do. If I could spend, if I could just do alternatives from now on out, I'd be happy. Yeah.
So Felice, your question about the iPhone and RAW, I
Yeah.
actually just wrote it up it's going to be in our next newsletter in the Tech Talk about using the iPhone and how to use the camera on it. And there's a little section on there about the RAW and how you turn it on and everything.
Oh, fantastic. Who's
for the
speaking, by the
iPhone
way?
13.
Linda? Is that Linda?
Linda, yeah.
Oh, hi.
Yeah.
Okay, that's great. Will I be able to see that?
Bill can give you access, I think. But you can always go on our on the Channel City website and you click on news and then click on the angle and you can pull up the latest edition. So, a few days into May, it'll be up there.
Okay, cool.
We'll put your email address into our general mailing list, and you don't get all of the notices of the various activities, but you'll get the monthly newsletter. And if there's any time you want to stop it, just let us know and we can.
Oh,
do
thank you.
that.
Actually, I might get it. I actually might get it. So I don't know if I have access to that newsletter or that particular thing that Linda's talking
It's
about.
called The Angle and it's in the
Okay.
newsletter and it's called Tech Talk.
Okay, great.
It's a
Thanks.
column. that's
I'll look
called
for
Tech
it.
Talk. Yeah.
Have you tried it? Has anyone tried
No,
it?
no, I was just learning about it as I was writing it because I just got the new iPhone 13 Pro Max.
Okay, great. So
So
you're
I
going
said,
to be
okay, this is good to write for the Tech Talk.
okay. So you're going to be interested in using that.
Yeah, there are a couple of different ways to make it work. One is you have to do something that makes it visible so that you can turn it on before you take every photograph. And then the next photograph comes up and it's off again. But there isn't, you can dig deeper into the menus and have a preference to always use the raw file. Of course, the disadvantage is that it's a much, much larger file. So those are the choices to make. And then it's not actually a true raw file. It really is it is processed to some degree by the camera. So you won't get the typical kind of flat file. It will have some Apple generated processing. It is a much larger
File.
Dynamic range space. So you'll have a lot more room to mess with the dynamic ranges once you've translated it and put it into Lightroom or Photoshop. And I think Camera Raw, the newest Camera Raw is recognizing the Apple RAW format.
The newest Camera Raw, what did you say, Bill?
The newest Camera Raw, it does recognize the RAW format for the camera, for the iPhone.
Oh, okay, great. Interesting. Okay. Great.
So we had some chat comments. Ron Abels says fantastic collection. Teresa Lawler, excellent. And Kenji, I guess, I don't know if Kenji got back in. She was the one that was having some trouble with sound. So.
Oh yeah, that's he. Yeah. Yeah. That's Kenji actually came. He's one of the artists at La Cumbra. He's also a photographer. Okay.
Any other questions or comments from folks? I'm curious about the using the iPhone to do to get those lightning strikes. Was that just a matter of catching it at exactly the right moment, or
it was?
Did you use a burst mode?
No, the lightning and thunder there was plenty of time to shoot it. It was it was incredible, that storm. Yeah. And there was so much of it, even if you were just shooting live, it would capture it. The live setting on the phone, that really helped.
I had a question about that, because I guess you were taking them at the same time, and one of them was a very warm photo, like a sunset. One of them was a very cold photo with magentas and blues, and I'm wondering how that happened.
You know what? My first of all, the phone really in its normal photography really saturates. It's just a saturated kind of thing. But the sky was really blue, and the sky really did look like that. it just looked like that. They were taken at this within minutes of each other. And yet we had that variety of sky. I know it's hard to believe, but we did. You could see though that the sand is a little bit different color too, and the water. Everything's a little bit different.
Weren't you a little bit scared?
It's so funny when when I have a camera in my hand, all my fears go away. I'm afraid of heights. I'm afraid of a lot of things, but when I have a camera, I get fearless.
Sure.
Yeah, I'm sure
You know, when that big storm was going on, we were all in the Natural History Museum at Camera Club meeting. And I kept thinking, God, we should be getting out of here and going and take pictures.
No kidding. Yeah.
Felice,
Yep.
I gotta ask, I hate to ask this question, but I have to ask,
I'll try.
what kind of camera do you use?
You mean other than the iPhone? No, I use a Nikon, a DSLR Nikon, a 7100. That's the one I use.
And how did you train it to take the pictures at the right time?
That's a good, I love that question. Is that Bob?
It's Bob.
I love that question, Bob. It's a mystery. It's a mystery, but that's what's so fun. And when you're out there shooting, you don't know what's going to happen, and wow, I just have so much fun just waiting for the shot to happen. That's why I relate to Rasan. That moment, it just happens sometimes. I just love it.
So why are you afraid of heights, but not afraid of standing in water and lightning storms?
I love you guys.
Yes.
Oh, because I'm dumb. I don't know how dangerous that is. I was on the sand, of course. I wasn't in the water. I really don't know. If somebody was with me, they might have whisked me away. I'm not very good about those things. Really, it would be fun to. I love going out with. I rarely go out on my own. Actually, I was with a girlfriend on that day. But what else? Hey, I want to hear more stuff. Like, how do you guys feel about that decisive moment? You know what I'm talking about? Do you all feel that? What are you shooting? What do you like to shoot? I like these moments when,
I like being non-technical.
hey, you're with me then, right?
Yeah.
You identify with me then, right?
Yeah, I have too much other stuff in my head that, all that other stuff is just.
What do
too
you
much.
shoot? What kind of things
Oh,
do you
no,
shoot?
I travel a lot. So I
Yeah.
just have I have the Sony RX10 III because I can only travel with, so much luggage and you got to keep it light. But it's got a 600 millimeter telephoto on it fixed. It does a trick for, I'm not.
But what do you like to shoot?
I travel, so I shoot everything. From people to doorknobs, to architecture, everything. So
Yeah.
I do a lot of surf shots and wave shots because I spend a few months in Kauai every year. So I got into that. But
it's interesting. It's been a real journey because in the beginning I shot everything too. I didn't know. But as time went on, I realized what I like to shoot, and I still have a lot of places on my bucket list. I don't know if I'm going to get there, but I still have places I want to shoot. And
What's the next thing?
what was that?
What is the next?
I've had a trip to Namibia planned for 3 years. We were supposed to go in. We planned it in 19 to go in 20. Then it was postponed to 21 to 22 and now 23.
Oh, dear.
I know. It's like, wow, what's going to happen between now and next March? And I also want to go to Ethiopia. Don't ask me why. I'm just drawn to these places.
I've spent quite a few months in Ethiopia. I love it.
Oh, really? Why? Why did you?
Long time ago. I was just traveling at that point.
Oh, wow.
I was collecting artifacts, actually. and Ethiopia was just a, just a wonderful place. And so I just traveled around.
What kind of artifacts?
Uh, Jewelry, basketry, textiles. I sold a lot of it to museums.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah.
So
Yeah, I'm very drawn to those cultures too. So
they're having a lot of trouble there right now, though.
I know, that's why I'm not there.
But yeah, I'd like to get. I couldn't get up to Lalibela because that was closed off when I was there, and so those rock churches and everything built in the rock, I'd love to
Oh, yeah.
see.
Mm.
That was unfortunate, wasn't it?
Yeah. But once again, they're having a lot of trouble.
Have most of you, do you focus on a particular topic or theme, or are you all shooting everything? Or what? I'd love to hear.
We have a pretty diverse membership, and there's folks that have very specific interests, and you can recognize their photographs when they put them in an exhibition because they're doing that. We have a member, I don't know if Barb Hodgson is here, but she's gotten intrigued with light sculpting and painting in light in dark environments, and a lot of people doing portrait and people photography, a lot of travel photography. We have a group of folks that are experimenting with more abstract and creative editing type of things, and storytellers and documentarian and street photographers. There's a little bit of everything going on.
Fantastic. Yeah.
And then the birding group, the people that go out and shoot
Oh.
birds are fantastic. I've not known that there's so many birds in the
They're
area.
the one group within the club. Anybody can learn how and post on the club's Flickr account, but there is a group of folks that go out regularly and do bird photography. So if you stumble across our Flickr account, you'd think we were a bird photography group. Because they're the ones that are active and out there and putting it on the website. So.
Oh, very good. Very good. Very good. Oh,
Do you belong to any camera clubs?
no. I don't have, I want to say I don't have time. I know that's an excuse, but I really don't. Not that it takes time. It's just, I guess it does. Everything takes time. If you're going to be a good citizen, you're going to be a good citizen. I have 2 or 3 galleries that I work in and 4 grandkids, and
Oh, wow.
I mean, there's a lot. It's and I love a lot of different things. That I really want to learn more art techniques and stuff. So
I was going to say I really enjoyed the multiple exposure one you did with the dahlias, and
Yeah.
I've been doing some experimenting with that kind of in-camera multiple exposure recently, and learning how to do that outside of the camera with Photoshop and such. But it
Yeah,
was really effective. That photo was
fun.
really, really good. I liked that one a lot.
thank you. That camera, I have mine. I can only do 3 multiples, the one I have right now. But that model, you could do 7. And I really liked it. It just doesn't, it's not as effective using the one I have now. So
Yeah.
I've also done a number of swipes. I love swipes. David hates swipes. He's one of my coaches. Every time he sees a swipe, he just turns his head,
What are you referring to? I haven't heard
it's
that
like-
terminology.
It's like when you put the camera like slow shutter, and it works really nicely with aspen trees if you're doing a
Yeah.
vertical swipe like
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
Okay.
And you could do vertical, horizontal swipe. There's lots of things you could do. I love doing different things in the camera, but again, it's because they become more dreamlike or they become more artistic, and that's it's what I like. So have you guys ever had Joyce on as a speaker?
Yes.
Yeah.
She's been a judge for us pretty regularly, and actually she was one of our year-end judges in January this year, and she's done some presentations for us. And
Yeah, she's awesome.
she's terrific.
She is so good. And her new work lately over at the tennis club, if you haven't been there, you should see her new work at the tennis club. It's very social commentary, you know what I mean? Like she's really gotten into a strong voice into some abstract stuff. It's really good.
Been doing a lot of reading, she told me, so.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Yeah.
I have a question, because you keep talking, you were talking about that one black and white,
Yeah,
whether it was abstract, whether it was art or photography.
yeah,
Do you not consider photography an art?
I do. But you know, I certainly do, but it almost has to be, it has to be artistic for me to really love it. I
Okay,
think, I mean, you know what I mean? Like, you know, you don't want a postcard. I don't want a postcard.
right.
Although I love iconic shoots, you know, like the Grand Prismatic, I love that. I love these amazing places, but I want them to be a little bit different. Everybody tries to get, right, their unique angle. It's really important, isn't it?
Yeah, well, I was just struck by that because for so long a time, artists, painter types were looked down on photography
It's true.
when it came out. And
It's true. They didn't.
so,
And now it is, right?
yeah.
Now it's a real art form. Yeah. Chris, what kind of work do you do?
Well, I'm nothing lately.
Well,
Just
Is that because of the pandemic?
that's because of tax season.
Oh,
So,
oh, well,
I got the day
not
off
that
today.
long.
Yeah, so no, I'm kind of a shoot everything photographer, but I really love the photogravure.
Yeah. Yeah.
When I talk to Joyce, it's like, can I pay you to spend a day over here to use your press? And I like the alternative. I like taking an image and making it into an alternative kind of image.
Right.
There's so many great photographers who have phenomenal cameras and good eyesight and quick reactions. That's not me. So what I like is to try to do something different with whatever I come up with.
Good.
So that's why I like taking classes with Joyce too,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
she's got that eye for something just a little different. So
For sure. I'm with you there.
yeah,
Yeah.
I just like playing
Yeah.
with it. And
You're an
seeing what
artist. Sounds like
happens.
you're an artist too.
striving.
He is.
Oh,
Felice, this is Deb. I mean, I really like that. I'm very new at photography, and so I like that you partner with other people and go on shoots with other people and get coaching from other people and learn from other people, and
Yeah.
that you're always learning and
Yeah.
developing your craft. I think that's that speaks to me.
I think, yeah, a lot of artists, most artists, don't they? I mean, unless they get into a groove where they're making money on a certain commercial thing, but most artists continue to grow, don't they?
hopefully.
Hopefully, yeah.
It's important for me too, so. So it's nice to know that the group here honors all and enjoys all kinds of photography and artistic expressions. It's good to hear that with this group. Yeah. You know, in the beginning with PSA, it was like, you know, you had to do certain things a certain way in each category. And it's like, you know, I didn't feel free enough to do that.
Well, we sure appreciate you taking the time to put together the program that you did and share your journey with us. And
My pleasure.
it's glad to have you as a member of the Friends of our club, and hope to keep you involved and see you again with the club.
Thanks a lot, Bill. Thanks everybody for showing up.
Before we go, just reminders, there is a fourth Tuesday meeting next Tuesday. Zoltan is hosting and looking for photographs that accept the challenge to show darkness, to show your darkness, to show your role, and to, what was the third one?
Numbers.
Number, yeah, the numbers. So this is an opportunity for people that don't participate or do participate in the exhibition to just share their work and chat a little bit as it goes on. And we're having a lot of fun with the folks that are doing it. So please consider coming, even if you don't share, but you can send things to Zoltan, or you can just choose to share from screen sharing if you want to do it that way. And then the deadline for the April? May, oh gosh, what's happening? The May exhibition deadline is this Friday. There's a special assignment in People for a portrait that's framed by a window or door. And we're back to normal nature for the nature category.
Felice, thank you again so much. And David Austin, thank you for bringing Felice to my attention and our attention.
Oh, I want to thank him. Where is he?
Looks like he's gone.
Oh, I don't think we ever met, but thank you so much for having me. I've enjoyed meeting all of you.
Thank you.
All right. Take care, everybody. We'll see you next week.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Thanks
Bye-bye.
again, please.
Thank you. Welcome, Bill. Thank you for your help.
Aloha.